This is a clip from the Cannon podcast. To hear the full episode and get access to exclusive benefits, head over to patreon.com/thecannonpod and sign up for just £3 a month.
One thing each of us believe Arsenal need to do this summer. Alex, thank you for the inspiration. We all love you for that. What do you think Arsenal need to do this window, this transfer? What's one thing? I'll start off myself. I think one thing that I want to see Arsenal do is sell well. You know, I've seen in the past Arsenal have sold players from not a position of strength, players' contracts expiring, we need to get them out of the door. Now we have players that we can keep in the first team, there is no pressure to sell them, the likes of Following Balogun and Kieran Tierney. And I want to see the likes of Richard Garlick, Edu Gasper, whoever it is, negotiate good player sales. Because what I'm seeing Kai Havertz reportedly, he's not going now, but reports of 50 million pounds. And I've seen Chelsea sell players like that in the past. Arsenal have done it in Joe Willock. They've done it with Alex Iwobi, but not as consistent enough. And I think that's the one thing I want to see Arsenal do this window is actually sell their players for what they're actually worth. And look at how other teams sell players to Arsenal. Moses Caicedo's done it for one season. We're hearing £100 million. And yet Following Balogun, who's just scored 21 league goals in his first, ever top 5 league. Fourth top goal scorer in Ligue 1, 5 more goals than Lionel Messi, and we're talking, £30 million. I think Arsenal need to respect themselves a little bit more and realise we are now a team of a high standard, and if teams want to take our players, like a Smith Rowe, for example, you're going to have to play big money for that. Alex, what's one thing do you think Arsenal need to do?
There's got to be a cultural shift to a more ruthless thing, which is a more ruthless mentality, which is like why I like what Mikel's saying about a reset. I think at the moment we're in a place as a club, and I've said this before, but I think it bears repeating, where Arsenal are a lovely club with lovely family values. I was there on the last day of the season. More than you believe. I was there on the last day of the season, and there was a really lovely atmosphere. There was families, there was kids, there was women, like there was all sorts of people from all there was even women there. Can you believe it?
Wow.
They were just on the pitch. They were just on the pitch as the wives of the players, but there were women there. No, okay. There was women in the stadium, and there was a real family atmosphere, which I love as a club. And where talk about like fans like Clive Palmer on the Arsenal Vision podcast talks about like there was a place that he felt safe culturally in the 80s, and I love that. It literally makes my heart like soar to hear that is my club, right? But we're competing. And we're asking that same club, to compete with Man City, who in the last 4 years have sold Zinchenko, Jesus, Sterling, all these types of guys who are very, very good players, Cancelo, but not quite what they needed. They weren't 100%, so they got rid of them. We're competing with Real Madrid, who booed their top scorer ever. We're competing with clubs who, the moment you start, we're competing with Chelsea next season, who the moment Pochettino has a drop, he's out. Now, I'm not suggesting that's a sustainable business model at all. I'm not saying that at all. And I'm not saying I want Arsenal to do that. I'm not saying that either. I want Arsenal to remain the nice club that I like. I don't want them to become this horrible place. But if you're trying to compete with those clubs, you have to start thinking, okay, we're looking at someone like an Emile Smith Rowe. Is he the guy, or Nketiah? October whatever it is, we're going to the Etihad, or open day of the season, guarantee we'll be away at Luton. Do you want Nketiah as your guy that night because Jesus is injured? Do you think that's good enough? If it is, fair enough. But I'm telling you now, we will never compete with City and Real Madrid in the final stage of the Champions League. Bayern Munich sacked their board 20 minutes after they won the league. I'm not saying that we should do that, by the way. I'm just saying that's what we're competing with. So when it comes to these decisions around certain players and around certain staff, we have to be ruthless and say, look, you're still a project player and we're no longer a project team. We can't be a project team forever. We have been a project team. We have trusted the process, but I think we're starting to get to a point now where I'm going, we need to take that next leap and go, look, Fabio Vieira, lovely player. You've got 6 months. Smith Rowe, if you don't prove it this season, you've got 6 months. We can no longer be that club where, we go, oh, but they seem like a nice guy. They're nice around the dressing room. Rob Holding, look at his hairline. No, get him out. At Madrid, he'd be gone. He'd be gone 12 months ago. If he did what he did at Spurs last season at Madrid, he'd be at Alaves, mate. Let me tell you that now. So and if we want to compete with those players, with those clubs, that's what we need to do.
You're right, because to fight Man City, you have to seek perfection. and to seek perfection, you have to be ruthless. It is 100% correct. George, what do you believe is one thing Arsenal need to do that doesn't involve any carbohydrates?
It doesn't involve any carbohydrates. Look, I think that we need to improve our efficiency and game management. I'm talking from both a coaching perspective, but also the team. I don't like that this team isn't as smart as it could be. What do I mean by that? There's so many times this season that I felt that we have dug our own grave, in a sense, in terms of how we've played and how we've led to some of these losses. For whatever context you might want to apply, I think that this Arsenal team is still fighting the narrative that the media puts on it. I want us to be bullies. It's a little bit kind of like what Alex said, but I think I want us to be ruthless, and I want that from the coach. I don't want to hear after the season that there were ways that I could have managed better. I love the self-reflection. I love that we have a manager that's able to recognize the points of improvement. I want that flexibility. Like, I want you to be able to understand that there are different ways of winning, and we may need that flexibility in order to beat a Manchester City. Pep Guardiola changed the system 3 times, Bhavs, in the course of this title race this season. And that willingness to question himself and say, I don't think I'm getting it right, even though I'm perfect as a manager, even though I'm perfect as this Manchester City. When you talk about beating perfection, I think Pep constantly questions himself with that. And I want this club to do that as well. The players, I don't want us to just come out for the first 20 minutes of games and then blow teams away, and then the level drops because we've won, we're up 2-0. I don't want to see that. I want the level consistently played for 90 minutes. Now, of course, that can be achieved with a certain carbohydrate coming in. That always helps. But I think in general, this squad and this manager can do a little bit better with making sure that it is consistent and owning the tag of killers. Being that dominant team, we have had to earn the respect of every single fan, pundit, referee, by the way. We have had to earn that as Arsenal, as a football club. We have now got out of obscurity. We are not anymore. Act like it. We are the Bayern level. I don't want to be afraid to put this out there that Arsenal are a global superpower. I don't want to be afraid to sit there and say that Arsenal can go to the Bernabeu and beat Madrid. Now, of course, yes, these are difficult things to do, but I believe that the mentality has to be, we will be there. And not just we will be there, but we are there. Okay? And that's what I want this team to be. Become killers and to take that next step. Sure, it does kind of involve, I know you don't want me to talk about Rice, but it does talk about that stuff. Get your first choice target. I couldn't keep quiet. But it represents so much, in my opinion. You know, getting an elite talent like that over the line that everybody wants, buying your first choice target. I think this stuff means something. It's about reclaiming your status back and being a little bit alpha in the room. And that is what I think Arsenal need to do in their transfer dealings. I don't want to see £5 million bid increases from Edu. I want to see, okay, the first bid's rejected. I want 10 to 15 million pounds up front. If you don't want it, we'll walk away. I don't want to see the timid nature of, oh, thank you for praising me. You know, I want to beat the bully, so to speak. And so I want to see that kind of efficiency.
Thanks for checking out the Cannon Podcast. To get full episodes and access to exclusive benefits, head over to patreon.com/thecannonpod and sign up for just £3 a month.